Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. Today I'm making my most favorite thing to make, which is Russian Pryaniki. And I'm gonna be using the raw method, at least what it's called. Pryanik, of course, is a honey spiced cookie, was originated in Russia, but also very popular in some Eastern European countries. They have tons of spices, and in most of them, main ingredient is honey. I have two videos on my channel on how to make these. One is using the cooked dough method, and the other one is using the burnt sugar method. You can check them out. We're also going to learn how to make the spice mix for pryaniki and decorate them with icing. For this method, we have to make honey syrup, and here are the ingredients for it. We will need 150 grams of granulated sugar, 80 grams of water, and 100 grams of good honey. And when I say good honey, you have to buy the honey that smells good and tastes good. And I'm using this one, which is linden honey from Bashkiristan. It has a lot of medicinal properties, and it is just a wonderful honey to use in your pryaniki recipe. In a medium-sized saucepan, add your sugar and water. We need to mix it so the two are combined. And the key here is to bring this syrup to a boil. We're going to bring it to a boil, and then we're going to boil it exactly for 15 seconds. When our bubbles appear on the surface, count to 15 and your simple syrup is ready. Then we're going to take it off the stove and we're going to incorporate our honey to this syrup. And look how beautiful this honey is. It looks like amber. Then we're gonna let it cool to room temperature. In the meantime, let's talk about spices. Spice mix that is used in the pryaniki dough called dry perfume. I have a total of 7 that I like to use. I'm going to show you how to make the spice mix in the bulk, because there's a certain percentage of each spice you have to use to give your pryaniki the most taste. And we're going to be talking about each spice separately. First spice in our dry perfume mix, and it's a dominant spice, which means we need the most of it. 1 tablespoon is coriander. Yes, coriander can be used in the sweet things too. The aroma is mildly nutty with a slight notes of citrus. Second dominant spice, and there's no surprise here, we will need 1 tablespoon of cinnamon. The aroma is warm, sweet, and slightly woody, and of course it's gonna give your cookies the most amazing flavor. Moving on to 1 teaspoon, and this is cardamom. The aroma is floral and fresh with a hint of citrus notes. Next is nutmeg. The aroma is rich and warm, and the taste is bittersweet. Next, of course, is ginger. The aroma is mildly fruity, taste spicy and hot, and this spice considered to be a warming spice. Moving on to 1/2 teaspoon, because those are the strongest in taste spices, so we need the least of them, and it's allspice. The taste is like all spices combined. The flavor is aromatic and pungent. And the last one is cloves. The aroma is pungent and highly aromatic, and the taste is slightly peppery. Now we just need to combine all the spices, and our dry perfume mix is ready. And then of course you need to sift it and put it in an airtight container. You could always use it for your pryaniki. And now you understand why this mix is called dry perfume, because you have the top notes here, the heart, and the base notes. Spice mix in pryaniki dough used not just for flavor but also as a preservative, because pryaniki can be stored for up to 3 months. There is one more thing that also added to pryaniki I haven't mentioned, and it's a cocoa powder. So we will need 2 teaspoons of cocoa powder, but mainly for the color and taste enhancement. Let's move on to making the pryaniki dough. Our syrup have cooled down to room temperature. We need to pour it in a large mixing bowl. To that, we're gonna add 50 grams of softened butter and 1 large egg at room temperature. All the ingredients here have to be at room temperature. And then we're just gonna mix it in. At first, it's gonna look like there's no way these two ingredients are gonna mix together, but watch. After we add the egg, it's just gonna add a little bit more liquid to it or viscosity, and then we can mix it in roughly. But this is good enough. To prepare your dry ingredients, you will need 500 grams of plain flour, which is a 00 flour used for making bread, and 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. We're gonna take a medium-sized bowl. We're gonna sift our flour in it, and to that we're gonna add just a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. That will give our pryaniki a little rise, but not a lot. Then we're gonna sift in 2 teaspoons of cocoa powder. That's just gonna give our pryaniki a beautiful appearance, a little bit better color and a little bit better taste. And then we're gonna add our 2 teaspoons of our dried perfume, which is a spice mix. We're just gonna combine all the dry ingredients together, and they're gonna be added to our wet ingredients. Now here side by side we have our wet ingredients and dry ingredients, and you know the drill. We're just gonna add the flour gradually. I first gonna start mixing my dough with or batter or what the beginning of the dough with a whisk, and I'm gonna add maybe by couple tablespoons and then mix it, and when it reaches that kind of pancake batter consistency, I am gonna move on to the spatula, and the same thing. We're gradually gonna start adding the flour to dry ingredients to our wet ingredients and start mixing the dough. And there's a certain consistency that this dough has to be, and I will walk you through of how it's supposed to look and what it's supposed to feel like, so you get the most beautiful pattern on your pryaniki, and it's gonna hold the pattern. So now we're done with the spatula. Let's move on to our hands, because that is gonna let us feel and know when the dough is actually ready. So now I'm gonna be adding just half a cup of flour at a time and mix the dough by hand. If you noticed, I'm making little balls out of the dough and pulling them apart, and if they just break, it means it needs more flour. So we're just gonna slowly add in more flour and then mix in the dough. And this is all I have left. I maybe have like a tablespoon left, and here, let's see, it's a little bit better now. So I'm just gonna add that last tablespoon to the dough, and it should be perfect. You might need more flour or less, but let me show you what your dough is supposed to look like. If you place it on the table, it should not spread apart like crazy, but still hold the shape. It means your dough is ready. It needs to be refrigerated for at least 2 hours. Now my favorite thing to talk about is the pryaniki forms. And the first thing is, of course, the most traditional ones. They're called pryaniki boards. And this is a board, there's a wooden board that has a depth to it, and of course the pattern that's been carved in. And these boards will make you the most beautiful pryaniki, and you will see it after we've molded them. Then the second option would be your mamul cookie molds, and those you can get in any of the Middle Eastern stores, and they're just fine. They're gonna be also perfect for pryaniki making. Then of course you have your option number 3, which is cookie stamps, and these don't have any depth to it, but it will make you a beautiful pattern. And then of course these guys, they're cookie stamps also. They're by this British company called Brown Bag, and they're just beautiful. They can also make a pattern on your pryaniki, and if you have those, use them. Then, of course, there's this thing, which is embossed rolling pin. So you could roll on the pattern on your Pryaniki. And if you have none of it, then the crystal glass would work. I'm sure you will have one in your house that you can make a Pryaniki looking great with the glass. Now it brings us to molding and forming Pryaniki. So we're gonna start with the Pryaniki board, and I'm gonna use all the forms mentioned in the previous segment. So for the Pryaniki dough not to stick to your board, you need to dust on a little bit of flour to it. And then how we know how much Pryaniki dough we need to use. We're just gonna eyeball it. So we're gonna cut a piece of our dough and roll a ball out of it. And then we're gonna take that ball, place it in the middle of the board, and with our hand we're gonna start pushing the dough into our Pryaniki form. And if you're place too much of dough inside the form, you can always take a knife and cut the excess off, just kind of leveling it with the form, and then continue pushing it. Then as you push the dough in, you need to take a rolling pin and make the back of your Pryaniki even. And then what I like to do, it helps to remove the Pryanik much easier from the board. Just take your thumb and start pushing the dough away from the form and tap it on the table, and of course your Pryanik comes out and has tons of flour on top. So take a brush and just dust it off, and then place it on a lined baking sheet and continue on with making Pryaniki. Our star is ready. Now let's make a tree. And then this process makes me feel like an artist. I'm actually not a great artist as far as like drawing things, but I like to make art with my cooking, with my baking. That's why I guess like making Pryaniki, because they make you feel like an artist. So you making beautiful pictures with the dough. Look how pretty those look. They're absolutely amazingly gorgeous, and it's like a piece of art, seriously. Now let's try the mamu molds, and as you can see, they work just fine. So if you have those in your household, use them. You don't have to buy the Pryaniki boards, which are kind of pricey. And here is the cookie stamps. And of course, there's a little bit different technique to make Pryaniki using those. So you need to roll the dough to 1/4 of an inch thick, and then we're gonna place that piece on top of the cookie stamp, and then we just kind of need to tap on it so it embosses all the pattern. And then using the cutter, we're just gonna cut the cookie out, and look, it just looks fine. Beautiful. And let's try to make our Pryaniki using those brown bag cookie stamps. I found those 2 stamps in antique shop, and I was very excited because they accompany you with a little booklet of recipes. And then look, they work perfectly. Look how beautiful those are. So if you have these cookie stamps, so let's say passed on to you from your grandmother or your friends, you could use them to make Pryaniki beautiful. And then this embossed rolling pin, it took me a while to figure out how to use that. So we're just gonna roll out the dough to 1/4 of an inch, and we're gonna very tightly roll the pin over that piece of dough so it imprints that pattern on the cookie. And then you can use the cookie cutter to cut it either into a square or a round shape if you want. And then you wanted to see the Pryanik made with the crystal glass. And then look, I only gonna put it on one side of the Pryanik, and I'm gonna use the heart-shaped cookie cutter. And then I'm going to show you the final result. Look how beautiful this is, just using the crystal glass. And so we have all our cookies laid out on the lined baking sheet, and they're ready to go in the oven. So you need to preheat your oven to 385 degrees Fahrenheit. And these cookies are Pryaniki baked for about 10 to 12 minutes. Then take them out and leave them on the cookie sheet for about 10 minutes because you don't want to lift them up right away. They're just going to lose their bottoms. And now we're finally at the final step of decorating our Pryaniki with Pryaniki icing. To make icing, we will need an egg white from 1 egg, 5 tablespoons of icing sugar, and 1 teaspoon of lemon juice. And then you're gonna need a tool to apply the icing. And I bought this in craft store. They're for kids to make little artwork. Using an electric mixer, we need to whisk 1 egg white on high speed until the soft peaks. After that, slowly, spoon by spoon, we're gonna start adding our icing sugar. So just gonna add 1 tablespoon and mix, then another tablespoon and mix, and then another tablespoon and mix until all the icing sugar is combined with the egg white. And at the end, we're just gonna add 1 teaspoon of lemon juice, which is gonna serve as a stabilizer, and whisk it till the stiff peaks form. And our icing for decorating our Pryaniki is ready. So now goes in the lemon juice. We're just gonna give it a whisk until the stiff peaks like that, and our icing is ready. Let's decorate our Pryaniki. I am excited. Normally Pryaniki are glazed with a sugar glaze, and you could see how to make sugar glaze in my previous videos that I'm gonna link down below in the description box and also at the end of this video. But this is me first time trying decorating my Pryaniki with the icing. And the reason I like it, because look, it all this risen up details on the Pryanik. So you can just apply the icing on there, and it looks almost like the Pryanik has been touched by a little bit of snow. Look how beautiful this is. And the Pryaniki are not just made for Christmas or New Year. They're made all year around. They're made for Easter. They're made just because people have special events and weddings and birthdays or whatever. I hope you will share this passion with me of making Pryaniki. And if you got to this point in my video, which is very long, I would kindly ask you to like the video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and make Pryaniki. I certainly know for sure that this will make you so happy. And as far as storing your Pryaniki, you need the icing to dry first, and then you can store them in a little plastic bags, and they have a shelf life up to 3 months. I hope you like this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you soon. Bye.